Before we get into it, if you enjoyed these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button, and keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as, investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. All right, folks, here we are on Saturday, March 8th. We're going to take a look at SoFi today. So SoFi getting down into the buy zones that I spoke about in the last video. I was talking about this 1280 would be my 1283 be my ideal buy zone, but feeling that there was room to push that toward this 1131, mostly because the 183 EMA is there. Now it's made contact with it twice, right? It wicked up strong off of it on this day, and then it sort of wicked or bodied back up through it today, right? The body of the candle found its way back up through it today. So I as it goes, like for a buy zone, I have not jumped back in yet. I don't feel confident. Most of my reluctance is in the macro market. The overall global forces, the many chaotic things that are happening, and I think the market being mostly on edge and being willing to fully play out that Buffett indicator that we talked about in the past, being in overvalued territory. And it feels to me that a little stock like SoFi might have a really hard time overcoming those forces. I think any stock probably will, and it's shown willingness to sell off with the market selling off. So I don't know that this 183 is going to hold. How that interplays with 1131, I don't know. Of course, sometimes it can fall a bit below the 183 and then quickly recapture. That's sort of like the last bastion of hope that I have if I'm looking for something to come from the upside for a dip buy opportunity, and it misses, right? It pulls through the 183. My one last potential hope is a quick recapture. If you can get a quick recapture, then sometimes I will feel that it's, seems safe enough to jump back in, or at least the risk reward is there to jump back in. But yeah, I do mostly worry about the overall forces, but it has come down to that 183, which we spoke about many videos ago, and so that's where it is. It is situated in my typical buy zone, but this doesn't feel necessarily like a typical moment in time. One other thing that I was thinking about was this past week, the financial sector has had the worst performance. Down in, I guess this is an average throughout the sector, 5.14%. SoFi being in the financial space, obviously also in the technology space, but that didn't fare much better. And coupling that with, again, if we go back to Buffett and consider some of his biggest reduction in ownership since the last reporting, that came in the financial space. Sold, I guess he sold 14.7% of his total shares owned of Bank of America, if I'm reading this correctly, but sold a whopping 73.5% of Citigroup holdings. So obviously those are much big players. So my question there is, was he feeling strong overvalued vibes? Does Buffett feel vibes from the financial sector in particular? And these were his holdings, so he peeled those off along with a bunch of other things that he peeled off. And then, this past week, with things continuing to really start to feel slippery in the market, we see a brunt of that hit coming for financial stocks and tech stocks. And so, when I talk about the macro forces potentially working very much against SoFi, that's what I'm talking about. So could things stabilize, and could we see that this ends up to be a very good buy zone, when the next few weeks or a few months go by? Maybe. But as it stands at the moment, this being the latest candle I have to go off of, I'm not there yet. But that's just me. You make your own decisions, of course. On the think or swim side of things, we have this previous trigger and fire back here. That set off this wild ride up toward testing that 1850 range. Hard pullback in, couldn't hold, and then we're bleeding through right now. If it does want to play out this full ATR setup for March. It got under the put trigger as it slipped below 1375. That's quite far away at this point. And it has a -1 ATR of 1142 for the month of March. So if it wants to continue on its bloody way, that may be something to look for. If it does hit into that like 1150 to 1140 range, maybe it gets a little bounce, maybe it gets a little reprieve, but nothing prevents it from continuing to scream through and below that -1 ATR if things get really, really dicey. And then you can see, of course, the many levels back up here. If we are talking about this in the near future and any of these levels come into play, we can certainly discuss them. But I don't get super interested until I start to see something around the call trigger, which right now is situated at 1519, and that feels at the moment like it's out of reach unless something really dramatic changes, which I suppose it could. High volatility can run in both directions, but for now it feels like the chaotic environment is mostly just making people uneasy to come and hit the buy button, and so folks are kind of sitting on the sidelines, selling out, whatever. All right, folks. Well, I hope that you have a nice weekend, and I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.